We can create collapsible elements that give the user the ability to show or hide content on a web page. This example shows how a collapsible works. When we click the collapse button, the content appears. When we click it again, it disappears. In order to create this, we start with a button element. There are two important attributes that must be included for this to work. The data toggle attribute. You can see that we have it set to collapse. And the data target attribute. And this needs to be set to the ID of the div that contains the collapsible content. So here's the div that contains the content, and you can see that we've given it an ID of x1. That matches the data target. Just remember to keep a pound sign in front of the value. So these two must match in order for this to work. In addition to the x1 ID that we have here, you also have to create a class and set it to collapse. Next, just insert the content that should be displayed when the button is clicked. So you can see we have some sample text here. And when we click the collapse button, the text appears. When we click it again, it disappears. In this second example, we've used the A element instead of a button element like we did in the first example. We can see that if you want to use an A element, you need to set the href attribute to the ID in your div element. So if those two don't match, then the collapsible will not work if you're using an A element. In addition to that, you also need to include a data toggle equals collapse attribute. And you can see that we've given the link a name, simple collapsible, and that's what appears on the button. Now, just like the previous example, your content goes inside your div element. So here you can see the sample text, and the sample text hides and appears on click. One thing you'll notice is that by default, the text is hidden. If you want the text to be visible by default, we'll start with the first one here. Inside your div element, next to the collapse class, just put in the in class. And I'll save the file. And you can see that the text is now visible by default. And that's the in class.